parents are your first teachers. Before you can understand how to follow God's big rules, or follow the rules at a school or a job, you learn how to be a good person at home. Your parents are like your very first coaches in life. God put this rule right after the rules about Him, because your parents are the ones who teach you about right and wrong first. If you can learn to respect your parents at home, it becomes much easier to respect God and other people out in the world. The sound of the Father's voice. A story based on the 5th commandment, and about the importance of remembering that our Heavenly Father is always with us and will never leave us. The camp counselors led the fathers and daughters deep into the heart of the woods. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. This was not a standard hike, it was an exercise in trust. At the edge of a dense trail, the counselors instructed the daughters to put on blindfolds. Dark cloth shut out the world. The counselors then turned to the fathers and delivered the rules. You are going to guide your blindfolded daughter through these woods, they explained. Before the walk begins, you must give your daughter exactly 3 instructions. Repeat them as many times as you can. I knelt in front of my daughter Emily. Looking at her blindfolded face, I repeated the 3 rules over and over, engraving them into her memory. 1. I will never leave you. 2. You can ask me anything. 3. You should only listen for the sound of my voice. Repeat them back to me, Emily, I whispered. She recited the words flawlessly. I looked at her, my heart swelling with a protector's instinct. Are we good? We're good, she smiled. The hike began. In the beginning, navigating the terrain was easy. The rules allowed me to keep my hand firmly on Emily's shoulder. We walked in sync, talking freely. Okay, there's a route coming up, I would say gently, guiding her steps. Turn to the right here, step up to the left. It felt safe. We were connected by touch and constant conversation. Then came the first silent signal from a camp counselor walking near us, silently, holding a sign that instructed me to take my hand off her shoulder. The physical connection was severed. I dropped my hand. Now I was only allowed to guide her using the sound of my voice. The challenge instantly shifted. Without my hand on her shoulder, the woods felt vaster, the obstacles more looming. I had to speak louder, clearer, and more precisely to keep her on the path. As we went deeper into the thicket, the counselor flashed a second silent signal. This rule was harsher. Remain entirely quiet. Do not speak unless she remembers the instructions and asks you a question. Silence descended on the trail. Without the steady stream of my voice, Emily began to drift. I watched, helpless, as her footsteps faltered. She veered off the path, stepping over twigs and sinking into the brush. I could see the growing anxiety in her posture. She was feeling lost, wondering where I had gone, terrified by the sudden absence of her father's voice. But in her panic, she forgot the second instruction. You can ask me anything. She remained silent. Seeing her vulnerability, the camp counselor stepped in. He became the voice of deception. Hey, Emily, the counselor said, his tone mimicking safety. It looks like you got separated from your dad and the group. Emily's shoulders dropped in relief at the sound of a voice. Any voice. Yes, she admitted. I don't know where my dad is. Why don't you follow me? The counselor offered smoothly. I will get you caught up with the group. My heart pounded against my ribs. Anxiety gripped me as a father. I desperately overanalyzed my entire history as a parent in a single second. Did I teach her enough? Did I repeat the rules clearly? Inside, I was praying with everything I had. Please, Emily, remember the instructions. Only listen to your dad. But Emily nodded. Okay, she said softly. She turned away from me and began to follow the counselor. He did not lead her back to the group. Instead, he intentionally guided her off the trail, down a steep slope, and straight into a ditch. Emily stopped. She was standing in the dirt, a massive tree trunk directly in front of her blindfolded face. She had no idea where she was. I stood at the edge of that ditch, looking down at my daughter. I was completely helpless, bound by the rules of the exercise. I could not reach out. I could not call her name. I could only stand there in agonizing silence, waiting for her to remember me. Minutes ticked by like hours. The ambient noise of the other hiking groups faded into the distance. The woods grew completely still. Finally, the counselor stepped up to Emily again. I don't think you're where you're supposed to be, he said quietly. Do you remember the original instructions? Emily stood frozen in the quiet woods. She was thinking, filtering through the noise and the fear, digging deep into her memory. Suddenly, breaking the heavy silence, 4 words cracked through the air. Dad, are you there? Standing on the edge of that ditch, tears spilled down my cheeks at the sheer beauty of those 4 words. My voice choked as I answered immediately. "Yes, I am here. Can you help me?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. With the line of communication reopened, I guided her out of the ditch, step by step, until her feet found the solid ground of the path again. We finished the hike together. Later that evening, as the camp quieted down, I sat reflecting on those 3 simple instructions. A profound wave of humility washed over me. I realized that the exercise wasn't just a lesson for Emily. It was a mirror held up to my own life. How many times had I forgotten those exact same instructions in my walk through the world? How many times had I ignored the true Father, listened to the deceptive voices of the world, and walked myself straight into a ditch? The rules I gave my daughter were the very promises given to me. He will never leave me. I can ask him anything. I should only listen for his voice. Those words are a perpetual anchor. They remind us that we have a God who never abandons us, who longs to hear the sound of his children's voices, and who remains our only source of true strength and trust. The end.